The Olympus EP1 was released back in 2009. Now, at the time, it cost around $900. Nowadays, you can find this used for around $200. So just what do you get with this 12-year-old camera? Well, there's a 12.3 megapixel sensor, Olympus's TruePic 5 image processor, and a 3-inch 230K LCD screen that's fixed and doesn't rotate or articulate in any way, shape, or form. Now, if you've never actually picked up the EP1 in real life before, the first thing you'll probably notice is the build quality. The build quality on the EP1 is actually really amazing. You know, it's probably a little bit bigger and a little bit heavier than what you're expecting. And that's not to say that the camera's too big or too heavy, because it's not. It's just that it's probably not the petite little camera that it looks like in photos. It's actually built more like an old school film camera. For those of you like me who grew up shooting film in the 70s and 80s, this feels pretty normal. Now, in terms of photography, image quality from the EP1 is actually pretty great. You know, it's amazing what Olympus was able to do with that 12 megapixel sensor. Also, the EP1 kind of falls into that category of things that you just won't find on a spec sheet. You know, I talk about this all the time, but there's just certain intangibles that you can't really quantify and qualify, and so therefore you're never going to see it listed on that spec sheet. But like for me, the EP1, for whatever reason, is a camera that always makes me feel focused. I always feel calm and present when I use this camera. Something about this camera, it's like when I pick it up, I'm in a different frame of mind, and I really take the time to like compose my images. You know, there's no throwaway pictures. I really take the time to just focus and make sure, like, you know, does this have meaning? If I look at this 10 years from now, am I still going to care about this image? And I don't know why, there's just something magic about the EP1 that makes me feel that way. Now, in terms of video, the EP1 does 720p at 30 frames per second, and that's it. You ain't getting anything else out of this camera in terms of video. I would make the argument, though, that given the age of this camera and given the fact that it's only 720p, it actually still looks pretty good. If you're like me and you shoot just as much video as you do photos, then you're probably realistically not interested in the EP1. There are slightly newer Olympus cameras that are still in a pretty cheap price range that offer better video features than this. So that kind of begs the question, is the EP1 still worth it in 2021? And the short answer is, it was, but now it's not. Hear me out on this. See, I bought mine back in 2013 and I paid $100 for it. And last year, when I first had the idea to make this video, I checked on eBay, and back then they were going for around 70 to 80 bucks, which is exactly where I would expect this to be price-wise. The problem is, there's not a whole lot in circulation on the market anymore, and so now it's more of a seller's market. Now everyone who actually has these cameras is selling them for these really inflated prices, and I just don't feel like the EP1 is worth it at these price points. See, that $200 price point that I mentioned in the beginning of the video, I only managed to find one seller on eBay selling at that price. All of the other ones were selling at like $350 to $380, and that's absolutely insane for a 12-year-old Micro Four Thirds camera. I mean, you can get a Sony a6000, you know, 24 megapixel APS-C size sensor, 1080p video up to 60 frames per second with brilliant autofocus in that same price range. It doesn't make sense buying a 12-year-old Micro Four Thirds camera at that kind of price. You know, if this video had gone up a year ago, back when they were still under $100, I would say yes, 100% buy one. But now at this price, I can't really recommend it because there's too many good modern cameras that are selling in this same price point. So yeah, I mean, if you actually can find a deal on one of these, if you find one for around $100, by all means, jump on it. It's a great camera, but if all you're finding is in the $200 to $300 range, it's just not worth it, man. There's just too many good modern cameras in that same price range. Anyway, I think that's all I got for today, guys. Thanks for watching. I'll see you again next time.